All right, so I'm going to show you now how to create a grid on your image. And remember, the grid is to help us to break down this image into little bits that are more manageable, something that you can look at and you forget, or the goal is to not think about, I'm drawing a fork now. No, you're actually just drawing an individual square. So I'm going to create the grid. You have three images to choose from for this grid. So you have this one, you have this one, and you have this one. Um, and then if you are here, that means that you have drawn already a half-inch grid and a 1-inch grid, which you have shown to me so that I have given you this is the thumbs up to move on and draw the grid on the image. So I'm going to choose this image and I'm going to draw. We're going to do what's called one-to-one. So a lot of times when you do, the purpose of creating the grid is to enlarge the piece. But I'm going to invite you to draw your image. So 1-inch squares, we're going to make 1-inch squares on this. So I'm going to begin with my ruler. A couple of things that are important. Occasionally, so I have a ruler here that, and we spoke about this in the last video, this ruler, 0 actually begins at the edge of the ruler. So there's not a space between the edge and the first mark. So this edge of the ruler is 0. Most rulers do not have that. It's difficult when you make the ruler to keep that edge perfect. So because this is made of metal, this has an edge that starts at 0. When you're marking on your image, I don't want you to start from the edge of the paper. I want you to start from the edge of the image. It's a slight difference, but it's really kind of important. So I'm going to start my ruler here at the edge. I feel like I'm going to get one of the other rulers real quick. Mainly because I feel like most of you are not going to have a ruler like this. So let me show you a ruler that you'll actually have. So remember, I want to start not from the edge of the ruler, but from the first mark here. So I'm lining up the first mark with the edge of the image, and now I'm going to make 1-inch marks all the way across. Now this, if you remember from the previous video, this is going to be the opposite. In the previous video, I wanted you to make really nice light marks. And for this, we want to make dark marks. You want to be able to see your marks on this paper. The other thing that's important is some of these images, you're not going to come all the way to the last space here is not going to be a full inch necessarily. So that's kind of the case here. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's okay. We'll still be able to use what we're doing. So I've made the marks all the way across. Now I'm going to slide this ruler across. It's important that we do this step, otherwise we'll have crooked lines. By the way, if you have crooked lines when you do this work, I'm probably going to ask you to do it again, because if your squares aren't square, then your image won't look right. It'll look wonky, warped. So now that I've got those marks, I'm going to connect them, and just a reminder again, I want these marks to be nice and dark all the way across. I'll just do a few so you don't have to watch me do all of this. And then I'm going to make the marks for the grid going the opposite direction. So again, nice dark marks so that you can see it clearly. Now I'm going to turn the page and I'm going to make 1-inch marks. Again, I'm starting from the edge of the image, not the edge of the paper. Make my marks all the way across. Notice, if you would, how I line up the mark that I make is directly in line with the line on the ruler. Sometimes I'll have students that'll make a mark that's kind of sideways, like that. And the reason it's nice to have that line up is when you line up your ruler with it, it helps you to keep your ruler nice and straight. So I've made those marks. I'm going to slide the ruler across and line it up with the edge of my image, and I'm going to make marks again. And again, I'm not going to do this the whole way because you don't need to watch me draw lines. But I've lined them up. Now I will connect my two marks with my ruler, and on the image I'm going to make a nice dark mark because I really want to be able to see that clearly. Alright, so you will create a grid like this across your entire image, and you will end up with something that looks similar to this. Once you have created the grid, now you're going to create some marks that help you to know where on the grid you're looking. So across the top, we will do letters, A, and then across the side we'll do numbers. It's not a bad idea to have the marks across the bottom as well, and the numbers across the side as well. Just make sure that they line up. So C should line up with C, and vice versa. And then same with the numbers. So I'm going to number down the side. If you look here closely, you can see that the squares here on the bottom are partly cut off. So if I have a grid, which I have here, the bottom square, which will be the number 8 square, is going to be cut off. On your piece of paper that has the grid, now you're going to create those same letters and numbers. So A, and you can see, so my G or my H will be kind of smaller. It's not going to work exactly right. If I start from here, it works. It's okay if it's not. You don't have to recreate the entire image. This is really just about practicing the technique, so it's okay if you do it exactly the way I'm showing you. And depending on which image you work with, you're going to probably cut off some of it. Same thing, going to do the letters across the bottom. And now I just want to show you a tool that I'm going to make available to you. Those of you that have used this technique have seen this tool before. So I will have these available. And the purpose of this is to help you really isolate what you're looking at. So when I use this tool for drawing, let's say that I want to draw this square. So now I can really easily see. So this square is F3. I'm going to find F3 on my paper here. And now I really just want to focus on drawing what I see in that square. You don't have to use this tool. Frequently when I do this kind of work, I do not use this tool because I can just isolate the square just with my eyes. But this tool is helpful. This tool is something for you to consider. So you can see I'm making marks right now on here where the image enters the square and exits the square. So I'm making these marks to help me think about how do I draw this? I'm drawing really lightly. Again, this is really important that you're drawing lightly to get the image the way you want. Now I'm looking at this part of my image and I'm going to kind of create that. I'm looking again at where does this mark enter the square. It's kind of close to the center, but not exactly. Down here it looks like it's going to cross this part at the center, so I'm going to create that. Going to create this other mark here. All of this work, the first work that you're doing on your paper, I would encourage you to draw really lightly. until you kind of have the image put together. So that's the gist of it. So today, hopefully you have made a grid that has 1 inch square on one side and 1/2 inch on the other. And then you have selected an image that you want to draw for our practice work. And you've created your grid on that image. If you've done those things, then you should begin making your drawing. So you're going to begin studying that image and recreating it on this other sheet of paper. Thanks for watching. Good luck. Look forward to seeing what you make.